Hello, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 29 of The Dive. We almost made it to 30, but this is going to be the last one, boys.
I guess the Dive for Ya episodes didn't count towards the grand total.
Those are a completely different show.
We get an episode per Dive for Ya.
Yeah. So
there was like 4 or 5 of those, so we made it over 30.
Yeah. In aggregate, this one's still named 29.
It's not The Dive.
Executive decision.
Fine. Yeah.
We're at number 29 here, and we've got awards to give out for our special last episode
awards
of the year.
Yeah, we're going to go over some player awards, so why don't we just start? Why don't we start out with the awards?
We're going to do awards, and then after that, we'll look forward towards 2020, talk about off-season roster and some other topics like whether or not we should have more NA mids.
Yeah, well, that is a
spoiler. We should.
We'll see.
Or should we? Stay tuned to find out.
All right, spoiled it.
Awards. We're gonna start with Player of the Year. Who you guys got?
My awards.
Mine's easy.
Did you go Doonby?
No,
I have
Caps.
an immediate one. Perks.
You said Caps?
I said Caps.
I said Perks.
I'm on Perks too.
Instantly
Perks lovers.
Because I love people who can switch a role. Like that is just so impressive to me.
Yeah.
Just the role swapping part that he went from one of the best mids in the world to one of the best 80s in the world. That's actually insane to me. Like I loved it when Ambitions was like it was a mid a long time ago. He did jungle for a while, and then you're like, oh my god, he won the world championship in a different role. But Perks was like instant success.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely incredible. I think, having a small enough ego and being able to say, all right, it's actually better for the team if I swap roles and Caps gets mid lane. I think not a lot of players would have been even willing to make that. Mm-hmm. He was at World Semifinals. He's considered one of the best in his role. He does it. I thought that he was going to be a liability coming into this year, right? I thought that when he got to the international stage and he's up against the Uzis and he's up against, the Teddies and these sorts of guys, he was going to get slammed. And he didn't. He didn't come close to that. They won MSI. They make finals at Worlds. I think that it's just an absolutely incredible run.
Okay.
I like how...
I agree with your storyline of because he swapped roles, he's the player of the year.
Yep.
But if you just look performance in your role for the year, he can't be the very best.
I can't believe that you went with Caps, though. Your answer
I
is
was Caps or Doonby. I had 2 down.
I would be on board with Doonby because I also like innovators.
So right before the final, I thought Caps was the best player at the World Championship. Caps was the MVP of MSI, right? And he was 1 best of 5 away from, I think, being the best player on what would have been the best team. But then Doonby didn't go to MSI, right? They lost in the spring playoffs. And then the fact that he was an innovator, and I love the fact that dark technology is actually the term they use to describe him, even in the LPL for years. The fact that he brought dark tech to a world final and won with it is an amazing story. But if we're talking about like just individual in their role, best player of the year, maybe it's Caps.
I would hard argue for Doonby. When him and Tien get added to the team, and the team skyrockets up to the best
and
in
coach.
The strongest league of the world, I have to say like that is a huge impact, right? Like
so over Perks, if we're taking away the role swapping bonus points he got.
Doonby was definitely one of the ones I was considering. My answer is still Perks because I just think that it's insane to role swap.
I think he gets those bonus points.
Still be top. But Doonby I would take if I was going to choose a mid laner.
Yeah.
Who's still a mid laner. And didn't swap roles. Anyways, I think those are good choices.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Caps.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We don't have to come to a consensus.
Yeah, I mean, Caps had an incredible year.
All right, what about Team of the Year, though?
Team of the Year, I mean, I think this one is a little bit obvious. I think it has to be FPX. I think that, they're the world champions. They crushed the LPL. They had one of the most dominant summer splits ever. Even their spring split, though it didn't result in them getting to MSI, was incredible. This team really did take over the LPL. And seeing them go to the world stage and crush through the knockout stage after having a disappointing entrance, despite the fact that a lot of these players were also new to the international stage. How many times have we seen players get there for the first time? They're really hyped. It doesn't actually work out. These guys made it happen first time there. They crushed. They did it with their own style. They did it with swagger. I think they're the Team of the Year, cut and dry.
I think the only contestant against them would probably be G2.
Yeah.
Because both of these teams at different times in the year changed how the professional scene overall looked at League of Legends. I mean, when G2 had so much success, they won MSI. Everyone was like, oh my God, we need to play Pyke in every lane. We have to have everybody role swapping around. We need to be really versatile with all these champions. And when FPX did their thing as well, they're like, well, mid laner better roam his ass off because if not, we're going to lose. So I think those are probably the two easy answers.
Yeah, I think it's hard to not give the world champion the team of the year.
Yeah.
I think an MSI win is definitely impressive, but in terms of magnitude, I always have worlds even higher. And then the question becomes, well, FPX didn't win Spring Split. How much does that hurt them? Because really, they were the team of the last 2 months, unquestionably. But when you're looking at the whole year, it becomes a question. I still say FPX because, to your point, they did very well in Spring Split. If they would have been trash tier in Spring and then made that miracle, and maybe that's a situation where I wouldn't give it to the world champion. But yeah, I'm in agreement.
Yeah, and I also think, to be fair, there's so many competitive teams in the LPL. To get to MSI is obviously incredibly difficult. Yeah. All right, next one we're going to do best series of the year. Or you could choose best game if you prefer that.
Take your pick between the two G2 and SKT series that happened in MSI or at Worlds.
It's MSI. Yeah. MSI for me. That was mine.
Probably. That's actually yours?
Yes,
okay.
that was mine.
Do you have a different answer?
Well, I could give a different answer if we just say NA only.
Okay, let's do that. So,
G2 if you're not allowed to say the better one, I could say another one.
So I actually think
you could have different rules.
In terms of the importance, I thought the G2 versus SKT World Series was better than the semifinal at MSI, especially because those games, all 4 of them, were filled with tension from the moment they left Fountain to when the Nexus died, whereas I don't feel like that was the case for the MSI games, where there were a couple ones in there that were largely favored between G2 or SKT. And sure, it went 5, and that's more exciting, but I don't know. The tension I felt throughout the entire semifinals was higher of the Worlds.
That's fair. And I'd have to really give the fully objective answer, watch them both back. But through the cloud of my memory, I see the MSI one as, I remember that as being a higher level performance. It felt like.
Were you
like
casting
the players,
that one?
No.
Oh, shoot.
It felt like the players were.
I was going to say it's because we're casting it. That's why it felt better.
No, it's because the players were playing really damn well, I felt like. Whereas, my recollection of some of the World Semifinals type stuff was there was more mistakes, but I'm not sure if that's really objectively true. I think they were both great series. The other answer I had, and I don't know if you guys will really let me call this a series, was just the SKT RNG games from group stage. So it's not really a series, it's 2 best of ones. But if we're saying individual games or a pair of games, those games were great. They were so exciting. They were very competitive, back and forth. We had, the crazy base race stuff with Faker. Those 2 games were maybe my favorite kind of like pair of games from the year.
Yeah, I like that for games. If we impose the extra brackets of NA only to make it spicier, then my answer is Spring Finals. Spring Finals was really fun.
It was a banger.
Because we were casting that. That was the TSM Team Liquid. And I thought that series was really good.
I was going to say that if that was going to be my answer if it was NA only.
Yeah.
because
the reverse sweep.
Yeah, actual reverse sweep.
We had everything. We had memes. Yeah. We had Sven trying to look around for it. And then they had, he was hovering Ezreal every time after that. He was trying to meme him with Echo. It was great.
Sometimes this is a bit off topic, but I've listened to a few NBA podcasts that go back to like a moment in time, like a 2016 playoffs. The Thunder were up 3-1 on the Warriors, and then they lost the next 3 games. And they say, what if they didn't lose one of those games? What changes in the overall ecosystem? Like, what if Sven doesn't int in the river?
TSM wins the series and then loses in groups at MSI.
But sure, but wouldn't that have other ripple effects? Like TL switched in Jensen for Pobelter and Ole for Core JJ, right? And then they don't even win spring. Do they change roster in the summer? Do they change? Like, I think there would have been ripple.
The real big question mark of what ripples would have occurred, like, would TSM actually have been good if they had won that game, right? Would they have actually taken that, like, built off confidence or something? Would they have less internal problems? Because I remember watching that series and like Broken Blade had this amazing Vlad performance, right? And people were like, oh my God, is Broken Blade, even though they lost, they were looking towards summer and they're like, is he going to turn into this dominant top laner?
Yeah.
Really successful import coming over. And, TSM just kind of crashes and burns in all different areas.
So that's an idea for a future podcast. podcast, where we go to those big moments like double
The time travelers.
Yeah, like double if dashing into Crown at Worlds. If that doesn't happen, like we rewatch that game and talk about it.
Win
What happens? No, but like, how far do they go? Does that mean double if never goes to TN? Like, there's so many things.
I agree.
I'm excited about this idea.
It's a rabbit hole, but it's super interesting. I agree with you. Really, really cool. All right. So, Dade Award, or biggest underperformance, if we want to call that. I know there's.
I think most overhyped would probably be an apt description of the award.
Yeah, and I think previous years of this award, there's often been someone who I think was clearly very hyped by a majority of analysts before the World Championship who then fell on their face. And I didn't feel like...
So we're saying 4 worlds, right?
Yeah, 4 worlds. I didn't think that happened this year. And I think that's what I've actually heard a lot of people say is just... I mean, I even went back and looked at most of the top 20 lists and I thought, hey, sure, there's things you'd obviously change after the fact, but no one here is hugely overrated.
So I didn't think anyone deserved the definition of what the Dade Award has been, right? Like extreme hype, and extreme underperformance, right? You're supposed to be the best and you're the worst. I don't think there was anyone like that. But 3 people that did, pop out that kind of, Nuggery had been talked about, had, I don't think that he deserved the award again, right? I said no one deserves the award, but I think he had some bad games. The other 2 I'm going to give you before you give your counterpoints. Yankos, I think, got absolutely clowned on in a number of important games, especially by TN, but also in some group stage. And then the other one that I hadn't really heard any talk about was Ming. I thought Ming was pretty trash at Worlds. And, the fact that RNG didn't make it out of groups, the fact that expectations for this team, in the LPL are extremely high, and people had told me they thought they were the best bot lane in the world. Then watching Ming's performance, again, not bad enough to warrant the award, but...
I agree, though. I saw a lot of Chinese fans flaming Ming, but that was over pretty early, especially because they
were gone.
They got knocked out. People were like, "Oh, yep, whatever." The Nuggery thing to me is really funny because I thought when it was happening, like everyone is just losing their minds right now because everyone was just like going so crazy and tunneling on the fact that he uses Klepto all the time. And that was like the basis for this hype ship. And this rocket ship just took off to the moon and everyone was like, oh, he makes Klepto all the time.
He's so rich.
Well, he was games and he's competitive and he just scaled. And I was just like, whoa, calm down. Yeah.
Well, he's just the greed lord, right? It was Klepto, but he's also going Klepto, coin, cull on Vladimir. He's doing the trifecta and into sometimes losing matchups. And the thing that made me get so excited about him was how well he's performing in solo queue, but also talking to some of the players who were playing against him in solo queue. They were just saying there was just this aura of invincibility where it was like, doesn't matter how many times you gank him, doesn't matter how many times he dies, he's so damn good that he's going to get so much out of how greedy he's being that he's just going to win anyway. And hearing people talk about this, built it up more in my head. It was more than just Klepto.
So
it was
that level of hype, you underperformed. But
he still has some really good games.
Player.
And people, and also, I mean, the fact that he got solo killed, I think that one game by Impact, people talked about a lot and some various things like that. So he had some bad games, but he wasn't horrible by any means. Overall, he was fine. He just wasn't the god player who was going to 1v9 the whole world.
Yeah, I think he meets the criteria for the overhyped player. Maybe not the Dade Award, which is there's Monty and Thorne's specific award, which I like having, names and awards tailored to something more meaty like that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create one myself.
Okay.
Yeah. You told us about this before the show, and then you wouldn't
because I look at all these awards. I'm like, that was just generic awards. Anybody could come up with those. But if you really tailor it around a story, then it lasts longer, right? And you can have some more.
Yeah.
So I had an idea. I'm trying to craft together one. It's not done, so you can flame.
Oh, we're workshopping.
Yeah, you can definitely workshop this. But it comes from, to me this year, LWX. That first game in groups where he turbo inted his ass off on Kai'Sa.
The Hero to Zero Award.
It actually made me reconsider.
No, Hero to Zero.
Everything that, because he's coming in super
undefeated.
high. I was like,
Kai'Sa.
oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
This FBX team, we were watching VODs and we were like, oh my God, they crushed this team. They crushed this team. Like every single regular season VOD, we're just like, this team is crazy. They just go down there, they kill everybody, they tower dive in there. I don't know. I was like, oh my God, this team is gonna be so good. That single performance at groups, I was like, well, never mind. They're the most overrated team here. I was ready to be like, whoop.
But then they won Worlds,
Exactly.
and he's the only Deathless player. So it's a hero to zero to hero.
This award is no. It's the award for best most successful player that turbo that also turbo ends. And I'm not done. So that was the origin of the award, LWX. But it also made me think of another player, another Chinese player. MLXG.
Yeah.
Because MLXG would do that within the same game where he turbo ints, but then also makes a huge play to win the game. So I crafted the award into the LWXD Award. What do you think of that?
That's not bad.
It's up for workshopping.
Yeah.
But it's like the award for the player that has the most success is the best player while simultaneously
Doing really dumb stuff.
turbo inting at least hard once in the.
I think MLXG is the origin of that.
I think
Just
it's
make it the MLXD Award.
That's it.
It's
I
the
like having LWX though.
He is the first winner of the MLXD Award.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. But people already used MLXD, and I wanted to feel original, so I wanted to.
But it was never an award.
The Sam Hardman
Right?
Kinsler
It's the
MLXD
best
Award.
Well, is it best player or most successful? They're usually interchangeable, but it's like
Yeah.
player who is actually super good,
Yeah.
who has turbo int moments at Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the MLXD Award.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
And I give it to LWX.
That's all right. The first. All right. He's going to be the
Congratulations.
first.
yeah,
Well done.
congrats.
Well done. Well done.
You went deathless in the World Final, did not win MVP, but congratulations, you get
He
the
made me-
MLXD
he
Award.
actually
Got
made me
continuously flamed by your team afterwards.
made me reconsider all the prep that I had done on FBX.
You're like, what if I'm an idiot?
That's almost
I was actually. I have a tweet where I'm like, they're the most overrated team at this tournament, overrated by me, because I thought there was.
that's almost an award in itself that would be an LWX award, like player who makes you
Question your-
devalue your like prep and your own
But
eyeballs.
what if I'm an idiot award?
I was like, is it me?
yeah.
All right, that's what I got.
Okay.
I like it.
I like it. 1v9 award.
So I know I told you about that, guys, like maybe 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Did you think about it all, or like come up with
our own award?
any other
no.
random thing?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just checking.
Okay.
Maybe you're a quick
If it
worker.
pops into my head by the end of the show, I'll let you know.
For people watching this episode, we can crowdsource this one in some way. If there's like a poppin' award, we can add it for next year's show.
Yeah. We'll only use the most upvoted award
Yeah,
from the thread.
sounds good. All right, next one, the 1v9 award. Who's the best player on the worst team, or the player who had kind of the most outstanding performance in a loss, that kind of thing is
This-
what 1v9 would be to me.
This was a hard one for me because a lot of times for a team to actually go deep at the World Championship, their team has to be good.
Yeah,
So
So it doesn't have to be a world's award. We can
True.
include all the games that we have seen, which would be it would be a lot of LCS bias games.
True.
But also sprinklings of other.
I got 3 though.
okay.
I'm going to decide within the next minute. Yeah.
Wait, just throw them all out there.
Yeah. No Man's from
Yeah.
Unicorns of Love is actually amazing.
Yep.
Fofo from J Team, also
He's
very, very
LeBlanc.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah. And The Shy.
I feel
Because I thought IG was actually a bad team. There is that 10-minute stretch in Game 4 that just makes you think he's terrible.
Kale. Yeah,
That was a bit of,
was
I mean,
horrible.
that's runner-up for the MLXD award, honestly.
yeah, those few moments tacked on at the end with recency bias.
But if they
and,
were
like,
at the
being
start,
so important.
He would win the award.
Yeah.
so if he won that series in one world, yeah. So two that kind of came to one I guess I'll start with that came to mind for me was Uzi. I think Uzi performed really well in the group stage and felt like Ming was pretty boosted. Felt like the team didn't play that well around him, but he had some incredible stats. I thought he had some incredible individual performances, and it didn't really work out there. And then when we kind of zoomed out from Worlds, when you said that, my immediate one that popped into my head was actually for IG in summer, Jackie Love. Because I actually thought that Jackie Love was by far the best player in summer split for IG when Rookie was out and then Rookie came back in and was playing boosted, and their top jungle and their soul lanes weren't really working together. Jackie Love was kind of the rock that got them to Worlds. So those
he
were
was
kind of
definitely the rock. I remember there were some games where the Shy had good games, but he was definitely not consistent.
Yeah, but that's like a specific time period, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you got, Kobe?
What do you got? I gave you some. I gave you some stuff to pick from.
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was some super strong 1v9 guy stuck on trash team. But I guess I would agree with Uzi, because I feel like a lot of people started to take away from Uzi by looking at his stats and being like, his gold share is always so high, and always his CS later in the game is so high, and people focused on the things that the team can give him, and they're like, okay, yes, we can give you CS later in the game. We can give you, an amount of jungle ganks, which the discrepancy, by the way, of jungle proximity difference wasn't that big. When Uzi's in the game, the enemy jungler also camp spot him a lot because they know how good he is. And I feel like people start to discount the early stages where Uzi is earning the CS leads himself, and he's hitting every single Mystic shot, and they're like, oh, why is he playing Ezreal? Well, he's the only guy that actually gets all of these CS and harasses people while he's doing it. So I feel like that was a case of some people focusing on some issues and like taking a little bit away. So maybe I felt kind of defensive there, so I prop him up.
So you're basically saying that Uzi was just as good as he's ever been.
Yeah.
But he didn't make groups, and a lot of people would say it was his fault.
Yeah, and people were blaming him, so I was like,
Although 1v9 usually means you win.
Yeah, and
but that doesn't apply for any of these, because a 1v9 team is never going to win Worlds. So at some point, it's going to fit.
Yeah.
You can be a 1v9 in a loss, I think, right?
All right. I'm gonna go No Man's. You're gonna go Uzi, and you're gonna go.
I guess Uzi. Yeah.
You talked you into it. Yeah. I think.
Well, those are my two. I said Uzi.
Yeah,
first.
he had three. He had like three people.
I had Uzi and Jackie Love.
I think if No Man stays
Jackie Love in
on
summer
UOL,
and Uzi at Worlds.
I think if No Man stays on UOL, they have a good chance of actually making.
I think that is a good answer.
They have actually a good chance of making groups next year if he switches leagues or something. I'm not familiar with like maybe he signed for 3 years and I'm just talking dumb, but I feel like he would be a very good mid in almost any league in the world.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Performed very, very well. All right, next one up, we got the Yellowstar Award. What was the worst roster move of the year?
I thought in the doc they said maybe we should find a different name for this one.
Just read from the top towards the bottom. Didn't read from the bottom.
That's more
like
on this
most
one.
unsuccessful roster move.
So here's another suggestion for the award. It would be, and it's too long, but it would be TSM Trading Away Double Lift Award.
That's actually better.
Because that to me was and it's funny that these are both
the TSM Double Lift.
These are both TSM instances, so maybe it has something specific.
Oh no. It's just the TSM award.
But honestly, TSM Trading Away Double Lift had so many repercussions.
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's not this year.
Yeah, but you know exactly what I'm talking about when you say that for an award.
Agreed.
All right, what you got for this year?
Okay, so hear me out on this one. Basically, like everything with the Misfits coming into this year, think about how hyped they were with Soaz going there, and they got Febivin back, and they got Gorilla coming over, and this was a team, they're going to go to Worlds, they're going to be potentially competing with G2. They got what, 8th, 9th in both splits around there. From expectation to reality, pretty huge. Other one, 100 Thieves bang. So again, when you look at expectation to reality, and also the fact that this kind of pushed Someday out of the roster, who I thought was the best performing player, ended up making him not have enough import slots. He had to go to academy. Cody's son ended up having a better season than Bang.
That's the kicker to me, which makes that to me the right answer was 100 Thieves, because of the fact that it made, or it didn't. They chose to. It didn't make them take Someday out, and all of these different things they had to move around. But because of those couple factors, I feel like that is the worst. But man, the Misfits crash and burn, that is a good one, because that wasn't just one move. That was like bringing in all these hype pieces and trying to put them together. And it was an epic fail. Yeah.
Individually, Bang was the one that I had like sketched down, but I wasn't happy with it. And that's why you told me you had two, and I was going to try and pick between one of them. I'm going to go with Gorilla, because I'm going to try and get specific.
Okay.
Because I think the Bang one was half that and half the fact that he wasn't a good fit in mid lane. So it just kind of in aggregate then caused a someday ripple and all that stuff happened. Whereas just Gorilla and Hansama should have been a good duo lane and they weren't. And I think that was more clearly one of the big parts of the problem. But yeah, I like that answer.
Yeah, both of those are good answers. Well done, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, next one we got here for us is the Kiwikid Memorial Prize. Who had the most deaths?
Wait, why is this one a memorial prize?
Because it's a death award.
Yeah.
He's very much alive and well. You can just
Died a lot.
He's dead in the LCS.
I see him very frequently, just across the street all the time. He works here now.
Don't lie to the people.
Like, he's alive and well. This could just be the Kiwikid Award, and I feel like that's nice.
He's dead for the purposes of this prize.
Okay, I have a good answer for this.
So who had the most deaths while still having really good impact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know my answer?
Yeah, let's go.
Contracts. Contracts has had the most deaths in like 4 different splits. People never really track this or never
He
really
is an
look at
academy
it,
next year.
but
You do realize this.
Yeah, most years, like we look around for this stuff and like you just sort by deaths at the top, and I'm always like, Contracts up there again with what
He has had a lot of impact in a lot of games though.
But exactly, he always has a really big impact. He's just such an aggressive jungler, and those are exciting to me. The junglers that force a lot of ganks, go for invades, and create action.
Yeah.
So he's my answer.
Okay. I got 2 different ones. One is NA only. The other one is Worlds.
I was looking at NA.
Yeah. Ruin in top.
Okay.
Dude died a lot.
Okay.
A lot by himself. But then he also had some big moments, and you're like, hey, he's a pretty good top laner. Clear upgrade for CLG and a big reason for their success. And then the other one is Hillsang. Because he just straight up dies a lot.
Did he have impact at Worlds?
They made the quarterfinals.
Because we're in Spain.
He's still on the team.
Yeah.
Decent.
Yeah.
But just overall, like this was even during the regular season, a lot of times he was more of a like 10 death game with no impact versus like a hard carry game. But he'd also, in my opinion, had some games where he's like still a lot of deaths, but still some good plays.
Yeah. Great aggressive
He
player.
fits the mold because he's a support as well. So I like the thread.
There you go.
All right. I have 2. So my NA one was Huni. Because Huni's definitely making some stuff happen. But I think in summer, he played really, well, effectively with his deaths, like starting fights and making things happen. And then my other, and I think this is a better one, but this is global. So I watch IG pretty much all year because I like watching the Shy. So Ning had the most kills of any jungler in the LPL summer. So he had 126 kills. He was up there amongst, mid laners and ADs, so high in his role. Alongside the 126 deaths, 126 kills, he had 132 deaths. So then you look at the second most kills, Meteor had 3 less kills, but like 50 less deaths.
I agree because you always see Ning going for trades and trying to 1-for-1 and, trade his life for the AD later. To me, the Kiwikid Award isn't him he never got kills, right? With it, he was like setting up plays and stuff and having impact that way. So that's why I didn't kind of go down that path, but I can definitely see, based on the valid one as well.
He's making some stuff happen with his life,
He always makes a lot of stuff happen.
Yeah.
And I like that. Whenever they sub Ning in, and we were like, "Oh my god, you know exactly what you're going to get, right?"
All right.
So those are all decent answers in their own.
We have
way.
no consensus on this award.
No, that was the most spread out award.
All right. Well, the fans can let us know what they think. Okay. Who had the most impact with a lot of deaths? All right. Next award is going to be most improved. So who do you guys think improved the most this year?
Crisp. From 2018 to 2019.
That's a good answer.
From like middle tier LPL support who no one knew to basically best performing support in all the World Championship.
Yeah.
And then NA only, I have Niski.
The crisp one is hard to disagree with.
Yeah,
I thought about this when I thought of it. I was like, "Damn, that's a good answer."
Because we're like,
Niski, but Chris was better.
Yeah,
Niski was who I had.
We're like, when they added Tien and Crisp and Warhorse, the coach.
Well, Crisp was on the team the whole time.
I know.
Yeah.
And Warhorse, the coach, to help coach Chris. Yeah.
He was
That's
good.
just that is winner.
Congratulations.
There you
Nice.
go. There you go.
Yeah, I get the applause, not Chris.
From bottom of the LPL to a world champion.
You get the award for the best most improved award.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. All right.
I'll frame it.
Next one. Who went under the radar? Who was the best player that went under the radar? So for me, this was Gimgoon. I think Gimgoon got very little praise
because he was
compared.
So LS gave him a lot of praise. So I saw a lot of
Hasn't he already been
praise
replaced?
early, so
I don't know.
and
I thought there was a rumor that they signed Khan.
I'm not up on all the LPL
yeah.
roster changes, but I felt like overall community sentiment, I didn't see a lot of talking about him, so I didn't see the LS specific thing. But I felt like this guy was one of the best weak side players in the world. When I watched him throughout the year, during the LPL regular season, I felt like he got very little credit. I thought he had probably the best gangplank at Worlds. This is a guy who I think performed really, really well while his team was very rarely giving him any resources. He still had some standout games, so I thought he was pretty impressive. But of course, I mean, he won the world championship. It's not like he got no applause, no acknowledgement. But that was the one that popped in my head.
I definitely see your logic. I think for the most part, weak side top laners, it's really hard to give them credit.
Yeah.
I mean, this award is a hard award to get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to judge, who did people not give credit to? And then it also has to be someone who performs well. And Gimgoon, like a lot of the mistakes are standing out to me, and like some of the Mordekaiser
The
choices.
rumor on ESPN is that Khan is on Fun Plus Phoenix. But like even it, like
There you
Gimgoon
go.
could still be good. But
Underrated
but
by
Khan
his
could
own
still be
team.
good.
There you go.
And they're not going to win Worlds again with Khan. That means it's Gimgoon.
Proven. We'll check back in next year.
Yeah. Okay, Kobe, if you don't have one, I got one.
All right, go.
I actually have three, but I need to decide. Lehens, LWX, and Xerxes. I think Lehens actually was really solid at the World Championship. Not looking at their bad series against IG, I thought throughout a lot of group stage, he was super solid support. LWX, literally the second most kills ever in an LPL summer split. Like, what was it, like 39
he
and
did
0?
win first team All Pro over Uzi.
For him, I have
So
a
that discounts LWX to me.
yeah.
as
For him,
far as not getting
I
credit.
have a problem with
Okay.
the under the radar part of the award.
Yeah. Okay, fine. And then Xerxes. So LWX is gone.
LWX, I agree, internationally was under the radar. In LPL, though, from international fans, because most people don't watch the LPL,
Yeah.
right? So
From
coming into
non-LPL
Worlds,
fans.
yes.
Yes.
Coming into Worlds, I think he was under the radar for sure.
Yeah.
But he had one All Pro over Uzi, which is pretty insane when Uzi is both ridiculously good and ridiculously popular.
Yeah.
But I really like the other ones.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have one, Kobe?
Not really. I feel like that award is so hard to judge, because then you have to cover all your bases of, but then this person actually knew that they were good all along. Gotcha. And it can't be someone who's obviously good all year. So
Basically has to be someone who lost.
yeah, I mean,
What about Wiggly? Does Wiggly fit the bill?
People, man, I tried to get an NA player, and I feel like probably because I'm so close to just the NA fan base and following it, it feels like anytime anyone has a good game, you got
Someone
like
talks
100
about it.
people being like, he's always been good. And it just is never true sometimes.
All right, next award. And our last
hold on.
award.
If it was for the whole year, and this is,
Hit me with it.
it's a really hard. It's
Okay,
not a
sure.
good. It's not a good.
You're not
award
happy
for
about it, just
Yeah.
give it to him.
Impact, because he got flamed a lot for only
I
being
like
tank
that.
player and stuff like that. But he hard carried, big part of their MSI.
Pre MSI, super under the radar. Post MSI, above the radar.
Ooh, all right, I got one in there
All
at
right,
the
final award
buzzer.
before we talk about free agency.
The Dignitas versus Renegades Award, the most prestigious of all awards. What was the worst game or series of the year?
If you're a new fan to the Dive or to LCS, just Google Dig versus Ren Rift Herald. Just do it.
It's a real treat.
Yeah, it's
Shout
a
out to my
game.
boy Crumbs. He was live in that game.
It's going to be
I was-
even more if you don't know what lane swapping was, because you're going to really wonder why people are executing.
Why
to
are
the
they
turret.
here? What is
The
happening?
first half of this with the executing to the turret wasn't that bad. The two people dying to like Rift Herald, that was the peak.
The best part is he's on Nidalee. It's just one of the most mobile champs in the game. He tries to pounce away, and Riftfield, I just remember the last smack too. It's like, bam, you're dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
I don't know if this award will ever be equaled, but we're
No.
going to pick the game that we feel like was closest to it. And it's,
Yeah.
to me, this was a really difficult one to figure out, because for the most part, if there's a really bad game or series, I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
I just forget about it and I focus on the positive. It's just a happier way of living.
I feel like it's been such a long time since we've had those really bad games that do stick in your mind. Like this Renegades versus Dig one. I had a almost 90-minute game I cast with Freak, and like that one will always be in my memory. But we don't have, games aren't going to last that long, or we don't have like back-to-back blunders. Oh, also, now I'm remembering the Billy Bob teleport. He was a player who subbed
That
into
TP sucked.
Dignitas, by the way.
Yeah.
It was like 3 inches. It actually wasn't the same instance as that TP
Oh, really?
sucked, by the way.
Oh, shoot.
My initial thought was just MSI Finals was so bad, and not for
That's an NA
not
answer
for
right
not
there.
for the comical, not for the comical haha look at the dummies go reason. It was the fastest series of all time. It was an absolute slamming. Liquid didn't look close at any point of the series. It wasn't fun to watch.
Yeah.
Probably the only people that enjoyed it were hardcore G2 fans, and even then, the most of the people I talked to still were like, "Yeah, I'm really happy they won, but the series wasn't very fun to watch."
Yeah,
I feel like all the enjoyment came in the following 4 months.
Rubbing it in.
How much they could rub in that way.
Just anytime you talk to someone from Europe, they're like, "How about that MSI Finals?"
everything would be, but you have the award for the fastest internet. Like, all right.
I'll be there a little bit later. Can you get here faster than the MSI Finals end?
Yeah. Okay, I went completely the other way.
Okay.
Just because I remember I wasn't even paying attention to watching this game. I just had it up on my second monitor. And I just remember during it, like, Vedius casting and him just being so exasperated and you could just tell he was just like, I don't want to be here watching this game. Just end the game. And I wasn't even paying attention. So I'm I'm pretty sure it was the Schalke. It was definitely a Splice game. It was a super long playoff game in EU for Splice. So maybe it was the Splice Rogue.
We'll workshop that one. I feel like you do.
We'll ask Vedius.
Yeah.
Hey, Vedius.
It was just like, oh my God. Like, it was super long. They were very, very slow to do anything. Nobody wanted to be there. That was my answer.
Okay. Mine, I didn't just say like disappointing series, which is I think TL versus G2 would win in that.
Yeah.
And then like the runner-up would honestly be FPX versus G2.
Yeah.
Because of how disappointing that was for G2. It has to be like a fairly low-level game or very low-level game that's memorable. And this was memorable to me because we debuted a new type of casting. Do you remember this? The final game of the LCS 2019 Summer Split and the final game ever by Echo Fox versus FlyQuest, who was still ramping up for the gauntlet. And me, Mark, Dash, and Crumbs cast this from this spot. This is a miserable game.
I don't remember
it was
this
a
game
great
at all.
cast. I loved the podcast. It was super fun. We had this bet that the Jungle Karthus could eventually win, and if I lost, I had to bring Crumbs a bottle of LaCroix. Like, it was such a low stakes bet because he was sure that they were going to lose. They did lose, but like, oh man, that game was not good.
The early point about these types of games just get forgotten now, I think really rings true because I don't remember watching that game at all. I remember the whole setup and we're like, oh yeah, we're going to have you guys like try cast it, just do like a loungy feeling.
Yeah.
And I remember all that stuff around it, but
We were both checked out.
Yeah, I don't remember that game at all. It's like, it's very similar to this, like the
right
playoff
before
game that I
tiebreakers.
can't even name that.
Like, all right, this game blows. What's coming next?
But to me, the Renegades Dig Award is a memorable game.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Okay.
like you're talking about it not
Fair.
being equaled again.
Memorable for me.
Maybe we didn't get,
And
You'll
for
always
Echo Fox
remember that
fans, their final send-off. There was a victory, Kobe. Do you not? They went out with the bang.
Show a little respect.
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go. That's it. Dive Awards 2019.
Diving Awards 2019. Let us know what you guys thought about the awards and who your picks would have been. And if you have any more cool awards, hit us up for that too. But now we got to talk about some roster moves. Where you guys want to start?
I want to start with the conversation around imported players because I feel like, sure, there's been a lot of awards. Some of the past off seasons when we've done this episode, it's like off-season's wild ride, and everyone was just mega excited about all the new rosters and how strong everyone would be. But I felt like a lot of this conversation has kind of been dominated around, why isn't Pobelter starting? Where is DeMonte's starting role? Pobelter made a very long twit longer talking about how he thought he had a pretty good 2019, and I don't have it up on my screen right now, but he did compare to some other esports about how just because you've been around for a long number of years doesn't mean you can't improve. And I kind of wanted to just have that discussion about what our thoughts are on NA either importing too much talent or evaluating talent the wrong way, or just like, why is this happening right now in the LCS? And is the answer actually what Reddit thinks?
I think that a good comparison here is the Ica recruitment for Immortals. So they kind of talked about it on Twitter a bit, but Zabatine has a lot of connections in France and the French league. And Ica is a player that played in the LEC previously. And he was talking about giving new players chances, but this was like, he's been a pro player for like 5, maybe even 6 years, right? Had his chance in the LCS, did pretty poorly, so went back down to the regional league. Hasn't gotten pulled up since then until now.
He's 23.
Exactly. But this is a player where just because people don't know him are like, oh, giving a new player a shot. But this isn't giving Ica his break, right? This is giving him maybe a second chance. It's not giving him the first chance or, bringing in some new talent. So a lot of talent that people think of as giving a chance to new talent have been players that have actually been playing for a long time.
Yeah, Ica and Pobelter are both 23.
Yeah, so that's some big difference to me. Where Pobelter is one of the guys who's been, in everybody's eye, in the spotlight for a long time, and you feel like he is old news or whatever, or people have watched him for a long time. They feel like they know his cap. And yet if you just bring a fresh name or something, then it's a completely different area. Whereas like the Ica thing, I was like, oh man, what is going on here? Because
there's
a lot of options.
Yeah.
And that's an import slot.
Zale?
So it's
so you're against it. You're saying because there's kind of this conversation of we can focus on Pobelter and DeMonte just for now, right? Say, should these teams be starting these players, and is it inexcusable for them not to, or can you see the reasoning for not signing these players? Because
and my comparison of what's the reasoning for signing Ica over Pobelter?
Yeah,
maybe he went back and he had internal scrims and he's seen some very good things, but
new player chance isn't an argument, and I agree with that. Yeah. I think, from my perspective, we will never know what the actual practices look like. We're not that in tune with how good of a culture fit this person is. Like sometimes there are players who are just amazing teammates, and over time that word kind of gets long and that can advantage them. We're not great on that. So what we're kind of judging off of is just kind of what we've seen from the player when they're on stage.
Yeah.
And for me with Pobelter or even DeMonte, I'm kind of just going through the list, and I know that a lot of Reddit has said, oh yeah, easily top half. But if I'm trying to put myself in the head of the people who are running these organizations, a lot of teams should be happy with the mid they have when compared to the NA mids available. Like TL with Jensen, C9 with Niski, CLG with Crown, TSM with Bjergsen. I don't know what Dig is doing. Dig with Huni, maybe. If the role swap
PoE.
thing is in PoE to FlyQuest.
Yeah, I'd say
that's
bottom,
already like 6.
Honestly, even PoE to me is like getting a little shaky down there. I'd say the most shaky and movable spots, if I'm looking to target, right? I'm Pobelter, I'm DeMonte's agent. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get these guys a job. I'm looking at Royama, PoE, Golden Glue, and Ica. I feel like those are the ones that, as an agent, I would attack for my clients.
And we don't know who the mid laner is of EG, and we don't know for sure who the mid laner is of Dig, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
There's
we don't know
that.
There's two spots that are like, oh, rumors of Froggen and that type of stuff. But there's two more. So like, I feel like there are a lot.
There is a reasonable amount of spots I agree that they should be competing for, especially when you look at past success. This is something that I kind of wanted to get into a bit, and I believe it was Benji who was tweeting this, Laud, formerly LCS guy. And I'm paraphrasing heavily. It was a kind of a series of tweets, but the TLDR essentially was he thinks it's weird that people are just saying, just because you don't know someone, you're assuming their cap or their ability to improve is higher than someone you have seen, right? And the idea that I've seen Kobe play for 4 years, therefore Kobe can no longer improve. Whereas Jat, never heard of you, sky's the limit. You could be the next Faker, right? And
new talent.
And that whole, you're kind of getting mystified a little bit by the fact that, well, I've never seen him, so if I've never seen him, he could be nuts. But we have to remember that, these players, some of these players, as you said, have been around for a really long time. Ike is a perfect example. You've seen Pobelter win multiple championships, go international. They're the same age, Pobelter and Ika, right? So is Ika, because you have seen less of him in competitive play, and inherently better or has a larger ability to improve? I would say no. I do think that, should Pobelter be on one of these absolute top teams? Probably not, based on we're looking at these numbers. But is it bizarre to me that he apparently didn't get tryouts with some of these bottom teams? That is absolutely bizarre. And I think that those teams are trolling. Like, that is unacceptable. If you are looking at one of, so let's say, 7th through 10th, as far as mid laners in a stack ranking, and you did not try Pobelter, you did not try Demonte, I think you are absolutely trolling.
Exactly. Like those 4 kind of wiggly spots that I mentioned, plus the 2 that haven't been confirmed, I feel like those are all possibilities that you at least have to try the player out. Now, I will have a caveat that for the like scouting new talent, exciting sort of factor, I actually really do like that. But it has to be something specific to me. That has to be a player that is just blazing through solo queue or something, right? It has to actually be a fresh player, because then you can make the arguments of, oh, he has not yet been introduced into the team atmospheres and all these different frameworks that you have to build up for a competitive scene.
So you're saying TF Blade or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a player that has played in a minor league for 4 or 5 years, that to me is not the same. Like that doesn't have the same excitement factor as, oh, someone just shot up out of solo queue, someone like TF Blade who gets rank 1 or whatever and all these different ones. And there are still questions around, oh, how does he work in the pro framework?
And to be clear, I don't even take issue with the result of, say, Pobelter didn't get a team. I take issue with the fact that he apparently wasn't even tried, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you try out both and Ike is actually better, and none of the fans are going to maybe understand that because they haven't seen him do well. But if you did the due diligence and you did that and he's better, then great. Good for you.
Yeah.
But I do think it's weird that some of these guys, especially Demonte, who, even if you're just looking at career trajectory, Pobelter, I think you can argue had a down year or didn't perform as well as perhaps he has in the past. Demonte had his best year ever, right? He's only actually been in the LCS for, 1.5 years, and he made it to Worlds in his 2nd year. It felt like he really found a niche for himself with Kiana and with these sorts of champions. It felt like he was kind of winning a lot of hearts and convincing a lot of people that, hey, maybe this guy can really get good and start to challenge the tops. He took down Bjergsen and kind of like all these things, right? Had taken down some of the top mid laners, and it was a very exciting story. So that one even more so surprised me, because I could get more a coach saying, yeah, we don't need to try out Pobelter because I've watched him for like 6 years or whatever, and I think he's getting worse, not better. But Demonte, I don't even buy that argument for that, because it feels like he's going up, not down.
I agree. I'm glad you said a lot of what you said, because I wanted to just jump off the point where you said that you could be okay with the result of Pobelter not getting on a team if he was tried out. And that's the point I kind of want to zero in on, because if I am to play a little bit of devil's advocate, while it is true that in esports, the known quantity and the fresh young talent having higher potential should actually be a bit of a myth. I think people can be extremely good pro players probably into their 30s as long as they continue to practice. But recent trajectory does matter a lot, and that's where I think Pobelter was harmed this year, because he went from TL, where he was seen as one of the weaknesses of the team internationally, even if he performed well domestically, went to FlyQuest, actually did well in spring, but his summer was bad.
Mm-hmm.
His summer was actually bad, and people are thinking, okay, he's been around for so long. So if Pobelter is trying to pitch, getting onto a team, it's very important. Like if I was on a team looking to Pobelter, I would 100% give him a tryout. I would 100% talk to him and hear how he plans to improve. Because I don't think summer split Pobelter should be a sure thing for a 2020 roster. And that could actually be as simple as it is, even though he does have a history of success and he has all these other intangibles that you'd actually want to bring to a team, so you'd 100% try him out. But I do think in the conversation, it can get lost a little bit that there are a lot of factors in recency that go into the performance of these players. And DeMonte, I thought he had a bad Worlds. I thought there were maybe both Fnatic games. If that was a Jensen or a Niski or a Crown or a Bjergsen, maybe even a PoE, maybe they win those games because he misplayed a lot of the critical team fights in like 2 of their potential victories at Worlds where they went 0-6. So I can see why they would want to move on from that, even if he was a fan favorite and is on a great trajectory. I wouldn't cut him. I'd want him on a team to continue to develop because he's shown great improvement. But I think it's tough. Like overall, it's really tough for NA teams to make these moves. And this is a bit of a transition to a different topic if you guys are cool with that. Because I love...
I guess we'll let it go.
I have one tag on. One tag on.
One tag on.
The other thing that I do think sometimes comes into play that teams are never going to publicly say is that a player like Pobelter is going to demand a much higher salary than a player like Ica, right? That could be, and maybe Pobelter was actually willing to take, like a cut of enormous margins and just play. And in that case, that doesn't apply anymore. But, with top players being rumored to be over $1 million, I think Pobelter, you could say is somewhere in the middle or something. Maybe I'm just guessing, right?
Yeah. Salary is a really big
a brand new
actually.
Player could be making, $100K versus if you're paying someone $500,000 or $600,000, maybe it's just not in your budget and you're assuming Pobelter would never go for $100K. We only have this much left.
And maybe don't even ask him at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have an add-on?
That's why I'm fine. If they go through all the steps, they try out these players, they do the negotiations, and you come to this decision, then that's fine. I think a lot of the outrage for people is like, oh, you're just writing people off because they've played for a while.
Yeah. I apologize in advance if I'm jumping down too many rabbit holes, but I have a point I want to make about
Let's get it.
About new talent and how it's not that simple, especially in the LCS, because LEC has pretty clearly surpassed LCS in the last few years. And it didn't used to be that way.
How dare you?
It didn't used to be that way. And I think the single most important thing that has happened there is the regional leagues that feed into the European Masters tournament. And just comparing the scope of that amateur scene with the scope of our amateur scene, like it's not even close. The number of the LEC rookie has already played for like a year in a competitive environment and been proven to be better than these hundreds of other players that are also trying to make professionally. Like it's this incredible amateur scene, and we don't have that here. So it's not a problem that I think is easily solved, but I think that actually is the most important thing. And I think it's why we're seeing so many OS imports, because that's like the shortcut to having a regional league is they're just almost using OS like one of the 13 European regional leagues that they are able to pull from in the LEC.
I mean, every year there's always this discussion at the end of the year. Oh, what's wrong with NA, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, and I think the simplest answers, again, there are layers, right? Because it's a very important layer. The EU Masters, especially recently, has become so extensive.
Yeah.
But even below that, they also have far more ranked players, more than double ranked, just people that play the game, trying to win competitively with that competitive drive, and have a bigger talent pool. And it's like all of these things compounded like that people can't, there's no easy fix to, we need more people to play the game in NA.
Just sign a bunch of rookies and put them on stage. It's like, well, no.
We need population density so that we can have the server in a central location so that there's not as much ping for everybody, so we don't have to split it up for everything, and people have to train on these delays, which is under debate of how much of an effect it's going to have, but certainly is not a positive.
I I have a positive.
Okay.
You want a positive?
Yes.
Okay. Every region has their advantages. And it's in how you use those advantages that ultimately dictate your success. Like the LPL.
Some are bigger than others.
Some are bigger than others, right? LCK has a culture of pro gaming, right? And the most competitive solo queue environment in the world and great infrastructure. In China just has so many players and so much money, right?
And they can play on the Korean server with,
Sure.
what was it, 20-something ping?
And arguably like scrims and stuff, as well as being able to jump into like high quality solo queue environments is important. And then like recently, the advantages for the LEC have been the regional leagues as well as the fairly large solo queue environment they have. NA's advantage is actually money. That's actually our competitive advantage when compared to the other things. We're disadvantaged in all the other ways, in solo queue ping and population density. It's the fact that we can attract top talent as long as they're spending their money smartly, as long as they have strong facilities. Like Team Liquid, with their training facility, has done great things. And I think Broxah, even though it might not work out, is the way you win in NA in this case. You don't like the answer. I know. But that's our best advantage.
That answer is fine. Your example of Broxah changing for Xmithy, and this is going down another rabbit hole.
Yeah, we can change.
But that's just a single roster change. And that was one where I was kind of scratching my head because I would say that is a minor upgrade. Now, here's another, like, I was going down a rabbit hole when I was watching all the roster rumors and stuff. And when I saw that Clid went to a free agency right after I saw that Team Liquid already signed Broxah, I was like, oh, no, undo. Can we switch that real quick? Because everyone's going to say, oh, but you have language barriers then. Team Liquid already has multiple Korean speakers on the team, as well as Korean-speaking coach and staff and an English teacher, Korean to English teacher. So I don't know. I was just tacking on your Broxah Xmithy trade. I think is actually
spending it in the right way. Like I don't think to kind of wrap this whole thing up.
It's unwrappable.
If NA wins Worlds, which I think can definitely eventually happen. We've talked about this before. Like maybe it'll take a super long time, but it's going to be with 2 imports, maybe more. That's how China won. Both of their titles have actually been with imports. Europe can do 5 LEC players because they have an amazing amateur system. If NA gets an amazing amateur system, maybe we could win with 5 domestic players, but your best chance is actually to pull from as big a talent pool as possible, and you do that with imported players and big budgets, which is what NA has.
I mean, I think the clear key to victory for LCS is yes, you need those imports, and you will be able to get them. I actually think that's the easiest part. I think the hardest part by far, and I've talked to teams about this and coaches and players, is getting the 3 incredible Worlds winning caliber non-import players, right? And I mean, TL has actually, with the import rules, essentially has 4 imports now, right? They just have double lift and 4 imports. I agree that money is the NA advantage. The thing that is really tough, and this is where I think we've kind of gone wrong, and it's easy to understand why teams are doing this though, is that teams are taking, I think, what is the short-term approach, which is you buy a good guy now who's probably only interested in going to NA because he's already done something really good elsewhere. Right. He's towards the end of his career. If we're talking 10, 20 years down the road or whatever, when NA could possibly win Worlds, you need to be investing, if that's when we're going to do it, you need to be investing in the amateur scene. You need to be paying a higher salary than EU Masters. So guess what? All those players want to move to NA and play solo queue here, and you actually steal their players before they're good. That's what I think is the real answer. You have to attract the young talent who can then build up and be NA residents when they come into LCS, right? And that is really hard. And I also understand why, if you're Team Liquid or TSM or whoever, why do I want to put down a couple $1 million on bringing all these players over who might not pan out or might not even pan out for my team? Even if they do, they could just go and join someone else, right?
Yeah.
So that's where investing in the amateur scene is risky and scary. And I think that's where you're seeing hesitancy, where I'd rather just put down $1 million now for someone who's going to make me good this season.
Yeah. And just strategically, I want to mention, so this doesn't get misconstrued on Reddit or something, that I don't think you or I are saying that there is anything inherently wrong with any domestic players.
No.
Like in no way is some other region superior to them, but just size of server and maximizing your talent pool. And teams should also be putting more investment into amateur scene and developing NA players. That's very important. But just because that's something we are saying.
And I think they go hand in hand. Just one little thing, and then I'll let you go. Because, the NA players will get better by playing against other good amateur players, right?
Yeah.
When you say you bring in 50 young players somehow from U Masters, and all those guys' goal is to make LCS, and they're going to grind on solo queue. You now have 50 more top level players playing in the challenger, queue. That makes all the NA players who are playing against them better, because you're really only as good as the people you're playing against, because those are the players that have to show you the hole in what you are doing, right? And if no one's punishing you, you can't get better.
So. My interjection.
Okay. We've gone down a bit.
We're very in the rabbit hole.
I agree with the baseline that money is NA's advantage.
And business, it's more like money is the result of their
development. Yeah. But there is an issue, like trying to effectively use that. And you definitely don't get like a 1-to-1 conversion, because you also they can't get the best talent. Like our teams cannot actually lure them over here with just money, right? There are reports of, a lot of the top players, I won't name names, but turning down double the salary in NA to stay and be on their team that they think can win in their region. So we can lure in a decent amount of very good talent, right? And that is an advantage. But also a problem is targeting people who have had past success rather than like scouting and trying to get people that are going to have future success. It's very difficult. Maybe Faker is the only really good example of someone who has great longevity in lots of continued success. Okay, there are definitely other examples, but he's obviously the best.
Yeah.
So it's very rare is the point, right?
Yeah.
So like, yes, money is the advantage, but it's not like
it's not a free path to success.
And and like you're talking about, China also uses both their import slots
and has
very effective.
Probably more money. We don't know the specifics, but China's the.
I'm gonna guess.
It's an advantage over our money is an advantage over some regions, like not all. Anyway, sorry about that. Any roster changes that?
Don't be sorry. I actually really enjoyed that conversation.
Want to make up specifically this?
How do you guys feel about the Team Liquid one? Because I want to start at the top, right?
Yeah.
This is the LCS crown jewel, our hope, right? Strongest team, back-to-back champions, and they have made a roster change. Now, I kind of already spoiled mine, where I was like, okay, it is a slight upgrade. Broxah did have quite a lot of bad performances as well mixed in, so it's not the same level of hype. Whereas if I had seen that SKT release of Clid and an immediate Team Liquid follow-up of signing, I would almost be like double levels of hype, even with they're gonna have to tackle some sort of language issues, because I think they have ways to deal with that. How do you guys feel about the Broxah add-on? Is it going to make them significantly better? Is it going to only make them significantly better for international? Is it going to matter for domestic?
I don't think it makes a huge difference, but I'll give you one more. I think if TL could get Clid, they would. I don't think having Broxah stops them from getting Clid. They've done it before. Remember when they became a team? They signed like everyone, and then they traded them off.
All right, maybe this specific example.
Yeah, because I think I think the TL way is we're looking at our roster. Is there a free agent? How much money can we offer them? Do we get him? Sweet. And like literally, if Uzi was available, Steve would pick up the phone and call his agent and say, "Can I get him to Team Liquid?"
So there's a limit to the money, okay?
Exactly. But
and what do they do with Broxah?
You at least try.
Let's go down one of these theoretical time warps that if they sign Broxah and they sign Clid, do they just eat the cost? What are they doing?
They trade
here?
Broxah.
Are they moving it around?
No,
do you think they can trade them? They're still going to have to eat a cost.
Yes, they would eat a cost. And you obviously don't have infinite money and you have people to answer to. But I think if they could, we don't know budgets. If you could sign Clid, there's like, I think Dignitas just gave what? Hooney, the rumor was $1 million a year or something. Trade him to Dignitas. They'll take Broxah.
They might be out.
The rumor was there also, He spent most of their money on that.
They might be out of money. Money
but
on
I
that
think
one.
there's a way that a player of his talent can go somewhere.
You can give him to Immortals. They can take Smithy's spot.
Oh my God! You just keep bumping him.
Following him around.
Actually, the TL news is this is very uncertain to me whether it is actually even an upgrade.
Yeah.
Is my
That's what I'm saying.
analytical take of it, because Smithy is one of those players who sacrifices a lot, and it is very difficult to fully understand the effect, the positive impact he has on a team. Everywhere this guy's gone, he's won. I think his crowning achievement was actually going to finals with the Immortals roster in 2017 and nearly like having some close games against TSM with that roster. That roster wasn't amazing, and he that was a 7th place roster with Dardoch and one of the best regular season teams with Smithy. And he does that, right? He's just a very good jungler who's versatile across many patches, and jungle changed again. It's mega snowbally right now. We don't know what's going to end up happening overall, but the way you competitively jungle, I think, is going to vastly change. And I trust Smithy's ability to adapt. He's going to be really good.
We're gonna have a lot of interjections and small tidbits
'cause I said a lot of stuff.
because and also it's a lot of history. And I remember specifically with the Smithy pickup by Immortals previously, it was also a coaching change, and I remember Pobelter really crediting.
It was.
Do you remember specifically? Yeah, it was Song. It was Song, because that was the exact same
TSM
time.
fame.
And I remember at the time where everyone was always like, because they only pay attention to player changes, right? But that was also in tandem. So
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted about this when I heard that the trade had happened. I'm not sure that they're going to be better at all, right? It really, I'm not saying it's going to be the same result as this trade, but it really reminded me very strongly of TSM dropping Doublelift and bringing in, you know, Mithy and Sven, you know, for the kind of like international upgrade, the communication factor and everything that they were going to bring, right? That still kind of made sense on paper. Yes, it really did not work out. So individually, I think that Broxah has like a higher cap from what I've seen than Smithy. But the second part to this is I don't think the better individual always means the better team. And I think that is something that's sometimes overlooked, because having interchangeable pieces, like it's not always a 1-for-1, right? You know, having a player that's hardcore early game, ultra aggressive jungler does not bring the same pieces to the team as someone who's playing Sejuani every game and playing vision control and only counter ganking. It's a different style. Your team has to play differently with that style for it to have the same level of impact and success. And I think TL could do just as well or even better with Broxah, but I also think that they could just be flat out worse across the board, you know, worse regionally, worse internationally, because there's no guarantee that when you take two players who are very different, that they're going to bring the same things and that your players will be able to adapt and perform as well with them.
Do you have a hot take that you can say, like 55% chance this is worse or something?
that's not hot.
That's not that hot. I think that they will be worse. I think that they've won 4 straight championships. You know, I think that there's a good chance that they don't win one this year. But
All right, here, there's
no guarantee.
Let me give positive side then, because it has sounded a lot.
I think it is an upgrade.
It has given a lot of negative.
I'll do the
I want to. Yeah.
But Kobe can explain it for me. Yeah.
What this does do is solve a specific problem that they mentioned themselves. They felt like they wanted a stronger mid-jungle duo. In those skirmishes, they specifically talked about Smithy and Jensen not really, playing skirmishes on the same wavelength, right? And in those moments, you're doing communication to prep it, but you don't do communication in the middle of a 2v2, right? Your Rek'Sai's flashing in, top of stuff like that. Like you're trying to perform and get those kills. That is something that they wanted to improve. This has gone to accomplish that goal. So this is where I see the parallels that you're drawing, Azale. It's very different because it's not like, oh, we're bringing in Broxah for communication. They're bringing him in for bolstering their mid-jungle duo, which is a similar like thread to, okay, TSM had a very specific thing they wanted to improve on for international events, and they gave something up for it, right?
Yeah.
And this is what they were targeting, so I can totally see why the move was made.
Yeah. To sing Broxah's praises a bit, Fnatic was a better early game team than G2 in the LEC, when you look at Summer, they were actually the higher performing team in the actual early game. G2 was the best mid game team. And Broxah was a massive part of that.
Yeah.
So maybe he comes in, fits like a glove, performs just as well late game. They are slamming mid jungle 2v2s. And it's Broxah is the hero, and TL goes on and wins internationally too. And that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would be happy to see that. It just is not a sure thing. And I hope that TL thought through enough about all of the strengths that Xmithie had. Because even Doublelift said on his stream that he wasn't that happy basically with this trade. This is a paraphrasing, but he said he thought that individually the players on their team performed well. Yeah. And he was kind of, sad to see a well-performing player, kind of get replaced.
He knows it's not a sure thing.
Yeah.
I think this is a TL thing. I think this is what TL should do, whether or not it works.
And just because the TSM trading away Doublelift is such an infamous historical event, I like continuing to compare it to that. In that one, I was sure, even at the time, I was like, one of my biggest worries for that trade, hearing about it, was that you are going to make your competition way better. Doublelift is always going to be top of LCS for marksman players. And I understand why you want to improve your communication to try and get your international wins, because TSM constantly failed at them to make that choice. But I was really worried. In this one, I'm looking at trading Xmithie away to Immortals here with the team that they've put together.
Probably not.
Currently, you're not that worried about it.
I'm not that worried about it.
Not yet.
Not if I'm Team Liquid. Now, if they end up winning and we clip this, like that could be a damn amazing clip.
Yeah.
Because that is a perfect, I'm not that worried about it. Boom, boom, boom. Number one, took your championship.
Yeah. And we could have the Soaz laughing face because he's on that roster and it can be the perfect meme.
Yeah.
Never underestimate Soaz. I mean, we are actually running out of time, which I apologize because we've gone through one of the roster changes. So I think we should go through and talk about what is the other one you want to talk about individually.
I would say the big hit for me is Cloud9/Sneaky. I think that is something that was talked about an absolute ton by the community. Sneaky is an incredibly popular player, but more than that, I think he's been consistently, I would say, top 3 as far as marksman players, regionally, and had the most international success of any of the North American marksmen. I was shocked that they were letting him go, and that no one else really grabbed him. I know there is the whole added wrinkle of he could try out or compete for the spot, so that is a little bit different. But I didn't hear much about if Sneaky got other offers but didn't want them, or only wanted to play for Cloud9. I don't know what all is going on with that, but I will say he is 100% good enough to be on a starting roster in the LCS above, I would say, the vast majority of the marksman players in the league. I think, yes, he had a bit of a down split, but from talking to a lot of players, a lot of pros also target Zeyzal as a very weak laning support, and has specifically told me they actually think that Sneaky did improve his laning phase a lot and was a strong laner. Doublelift himself said that the top 3 ADs in the league, Sven, Doublelift, Sneaky, right? This is a guy who can compete for championships in NA. I think it's a big loss for the league, both personality-wise and competitive and kind of skill-wise, if he doesn't come back to the LCS.
Yeah, I think him going nowhere is a travesty.
Yeah.
If he is not in the LCS, that is terrible. Looking at the Cloud9 roster of what they ended up with, and I know that there is a lot of baggage that goes into this, because even in the Twitch clips and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, the benchings and turmoil that went on inside, we have no idea what actually went on.
It's all very strange.
There was definitely movement there, and people were definitely unhappy. So if it had to disperse, then it had to disperse. Because you want a cohesive team. What they ended up with, to me, doesn't look like there was a big failure here. I'm like Cloud9 fans, the sky is not falling. I do want Sneaky back in the league. I think if he's not going to be on Cloud9, should have gotten on one of these other teams. But if they couldn't work together anymore, then
what do you think of losing Svenskeren?
I mean, Svenskeren to me is another one where I'm pretty sure that was if you have to lose Svenskeren, I think them already giving Blabber time and trying to perform with him and testing out the strengths and weaknesses laid the groundwork. So it's always really tough during the offseason because you have to juggle the prices of all these players, as well as the personalities with them playing with each other and them playing with the management / coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many moves that went on where it's really hard for me to be like, they gave this guy up on purpose or because they had to.
Yeah. And a team doesn't necessarily want to be completely honest about it because sometimes it would be a bad look.
Yeah. Nobody wants to air the dirty laundry, right?
Exactly.
We're past the stages of the
Dunzo
manifestos that get released
those
afterwards.
were the days.
Those
Imagine if we were doing the
days.
dive.
It was
We got
fun.
the Dunzo manifesto dropped onto us. 3-part series. The Dunzo
I'm still waiting.
manifesto.
I think Doublelift is the kind of guy who could have a Dunzo manifesto.
We have a lot of years
know?
to catch up on too.
Give Doublelift a handful more years. He's been there since the beginning. That could be like a 200-page Dunzo manifesto.
Okay, I agree that if there was a lot of turmoil and looking at the C9 roster,
if they had to give up
that's
players,
a good roster.
yeah. If they had to give up players, I think
Like,
they did well with.
think about C9's year. They had the league MVP in Sven Skjern. They made it to the finals in the summer. They still were unable to get a domestic championship. And then finally, they had their worst Worlds performance in the past, ever since the last time we were in Europe, in the past 4 years. So, yes, you would want to refresh and change something because their goals and aspirations are higher. So, in terms of refreshing, I definitely don't hate it. Blabber has looked amazing and does seem like potentially more stage time could fix some of his issues. His potential is incredible. Sven had a bad year. So he's one of those players where you could make the argument that, because he hasn't been good recently, why are you expecting him to get better now? That would be like the biggest question mark for me.
Yep.
But Vulcan, Blabber, everything kind of makes its own type of sense, even though there's been a lot of secrecy.
Yeah, I think Vulcan is really good and a fairly underrated player. I was really impressed with him overall. I wonder if there will be kind of a big loss of the shot caller and leader of the team because that is something that can be really felt on a team. I know that Zazel was one of the really big voices.
Yeah.
I know that people had referenced many times that Sneaky is kind of like a calming presence on the team and can be, a leader of the team in that way. Sven Skjern, I had heard, took up a lot of the mantle of mid-game shot calling and everything for the team also. So that's a lot of big voices for the squad leaving at the same time.
Technically, they still have Sneaky. Just going to throw it out there. As far as I know, he's still on Cloud9.
He hasn't announced anywhere else.
Yeah.
Jack said he could stay, compete for the spot.
Maybe that'll change. Yeah.
But anyways, if you told me that they were losing Sneaky and Sven Skjern, I would have thought, oh no, are they going to be bottom team? And then seeing this, I'm like, nope, probably not. So I think the other two ones that we should hit on are Hunted Thieves and TSM.
Hunted, 5 new starters when compared to their summer split.
And we
starters.
talked to Papa Smithy a lot at Worlds.
Yeah. I didn't know about these. Getting Meteos. I loved their announcement video with Meteos and 8-Shot.
Yeah, that was very funny.
That's the favorite one. They duplicated it with Cody's son and Meteos, and it was
It loses a little bit the
it was like
second
7 out of
use.
10. They needed the drink or whatever. It was 7 before. Check those out if you haven't. 100 Thieves roster. I think they pulled together something pretty nice, but the question here is going to be mid. Mid is so incredibly important, and they tried him out, but Ryoma is, I guess, looking at the signed mids, one of, if not the most unproven players in the LCS. And this team, literally since their inception, hasn't had a powerful mid laner. So
Yeah, I mean, Papa Smithy was at Worlds really downplaying this year. And so he set the bar really low for me. Seeing this roster, I got pretty excited. I was like, okay, like this really came together at the end there for
might
you.
be a rebuilding year or something.
I think he also told me some like mystic kind of stuff. He's like, I'm gonna go for something really exciting, and you'll know if it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, was this it? Is it like, was it Meteos?
It's like he's taking fortune cookies and then just telling you that is going to be his roster plan.
He kept saying stuff like, don't be surprised if we're last
Your lucky
place.
number is 7.
It's going to be a long, but it looks like some stuff fell into place here because this is decent. I think your point about the mid lane is probably the focal point for a lot of people because honestly, let's be honest, very few people watch Oceanic League of Legends. But I did see Spawn and a lot of the Oceanic players and staff like popping off on Twitter defending him. So I know he does have a huge backing. I still have not gone back and watched his games yet. The only Oceanic games I've ever gone back and watched have been at direct requests for feedback for casting. But yeah, before the season starts, gonna go back and look. But they must have seen something.
And apparently they had a full trial process with them.
Because
in all of this.
That's what Spawn was talking about on Twitter. He was like, "Do you think they didn't have tryouts? You think they didn't look at scrims? You think they didn't do their due diligence and research?" So.
Because it was apparently unanimous within the whole staff of 100 Thieves as far as like coach, GM, etc.
So
exciting.
So if you have faith in Papa Smithy, if you have faith in Zix, got to give them the benefit of the doubt at least.
You don't have to, but
you're going.
It's a wait and see.
Perhaps you want to give them the benefit.
There you go.
Stunt. Other thing I'll touch on really quick. I'm actually excited to see him back in. This is a guy who, when you talk about someone who's really good at solo queue, this is a guy who often has like 4 accounts in the top 10 as a support player.
Yeah.
Playing very frequently solo. He plays all kinds of different picks. So if you watch his stream, he's a very talented individual player. I think he has struggled sometimes with communication aspects. Has struggled sometimes with the mental aspect of the LCS. And I have heard that he has been working really hard on himself individually to try to improve all of this, so he can become a complete player. That's a guy I think has a lot of potential to be, a big up and coming NA player.
I agree. And that's kind of the path that I hope some of the other former LCS players try and take. This is looping back to the very beginning of our conversation. Like, I think there are a lot of unjust things that could be happening to Pobelt or Demonte, but if they want to have a long career in esports, try and use this as motivation fuel. Grind, get on an academy team.
Motivation fuel. I like that.
Smash academy and make it so people pick you up in the LCS. Stunt was actually a good LCS player when he played in the LCS. Could very easily think it was super unfair that he got put in the academy, and now he's back on an LCS starting roster. So I think that's cool, and I want to agree and commend him for what he's done.
All right, TSM, thoughts?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this team play because it's like how many?
It's the team that has had the most difficulty holding a jungler and having success with a jungler and molding a jungler, and the jungler who refuses to be molded and has swapped the most teams. I tweeted it out. I think it was 9 different junglers for TSM, 6 different teams for Dardoch. Put them together.
We have 18 games in a split. What's your over-under on number of games that Dardoch will play?
So I will never learn, and I am once again excited and think that it's going to work. I think until Dardoch plays for every single LCS team and gets kicked off every single team, when I hear about the new signing, I'm going to be like, I think this is
then a new org joins the league and you're like, this is it. Got another new one.
We did this exercise a couple weeks ago when we're thinking about TSM's roster and saying, okay, which junglers can they get? And we're like, well, either they're going with Grig again or they're bringing in Dardoch. Essentially what I came down to. Yeah. Unless you have another one that you feel like they could have grabbed. It's like it was Meteos, Dardoch, or Grig.
I know people were talking about like amazing. People were talking about amazing, but then they brought in Kabe, which I think blocked that because the import stuff. People were talking about Meteos, which I think could have made sense. Do they still have Grig and Acadian? I'm unsure about that.
No,
that changes my
pretty sure I saw that Grig was out.
If Grig and Acadian are both gone, I think it's a full split with Dardoch, barring the worst result possible where they're losing every single game. I think if Acadian is there and there's mid lane success, Acadian is an LCS caliber jungler, so I could see it being more of a split game type thing. I don't really have any inside info on what that setup is going to be, but I think that Dardoch has to have learned from all these experiences, and I would hope that it's if he gets replaced, it's due to performance, not due to the other side, right? Yeah. Because I think that this team hinges almost entirely on how well he can work with his soul laners. I know that Bjergsen is one of the best, that's ever been in the league. Broken Blade, we have seen high highs. If that top side can work well, Kabe is the late game team fighting guy that I think, can bring something there. But I don't think their bottom side of the map is going to be proactive. So if Dardoch is not working well with his soul laners, you're going to have passive TSM sitting back and waiting, and I don't think that they're going to get the results that they want.
I think that the most significant upgrade is TSM's second try at the import AD carry slot. I think that I think bringing in Kabe is really big for them. He had a very strong year.
I just think he's Sven.
I think he's way better. I think he's definitely better than Sven.
I see them as such similar players. When I watched him play, he is really good at team fighting, but I never felt like he was the guy that got big advantages early. He team fought incredibly well, and that's how I see Sven, a consistent player who's great in the late game.
I think Kobbe was more the win condition for Splice than Sven has been for Sven teams in the past. That would be the differentiating factor. I agree he's not like super
even on
pop-off
Origin
smash
when he was
lane.
like the late game hyper carry dude who was always the win condition. I felt like
I thought Peke and Soaz did a lot to create win conditions for that team. And I thought even on G2 that Perks was creating a lot of the win conditions. So like, sure, he's definitely had games where he's carried, but more just on the, if it's a 7 versus Ven's 5 or something.
It's interesting because I definitely don't think Kobbe is a bad player by any means. I just think that they're both really good at that style. And I think that style was kind of shown to not be what TSM needed because they're almost perennially have these we're too passive type problems. And I felt like you replaced the passive AD who's a great team fighter with a passive AD who's a great team fighter.
Possibly.
All right. Well, we successfully squeezed in one more episode this year just in time.
It counts as 2 episodes. It's long enough.
Yeah, we did
That is going to do it for us for 2019. Thank you for tuning in all year. We're going to be back in 2020, and we'll probably finish up with more roster stuff at that time.
Also, All-Star. We're leaving for All-Star tomorrow. That's one of the
that's why I'm talking about squeezing it in.
Yeah.
I flew in tonight. I'm flying out tomorrow.
Yeah. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Christmas.
It was good.
Happy New
Yeah,
Year.
good. That's good. We'll catch up later.
Stay intact.
Yeah.
We'll wait till they're gone.
Bye.